In the Zachariah Anderson trial, Anderson is accused of killing Rosalio Gutierrez and hiding his body.
Okay, what happened was he stopped talking to his current girlfriend, who is the ex-girlfriend of the defendant, on the 17th of May, 2020. She hadn't heard from him in about 12 hours, so she panicked and went to his house. She's weird. She's controlling. She's a freak. She went to his house and opened his door, just walked into his house and saw blood everywhere and called the cops. The prosecution presented this in the opening statements. They said there's a small rug missing in the living room, and except for the void where this rug was, every livable surface in the house was covered in blood. But it turns out that it was just kind of, to me it looks like someone like cracked their head open on a end table and bled a lot and then sat on the couch for a minute, and that was it. I mean, there's not a lot of blood. It's really not. There's no way a human could have bled out.
Then Court TV is also wrong about this, because they said authorities found Gutierrez's blood in Anderson's Dodge minivan, which was also missing a large section of carpet and smelled of bleach, according to the complaint.
Okay.
So what's with the missing carpets everywhere?
It is his work van. He's a contractor. His job is to demolish houses and to like carry out, and every person I've ever known in my life that is a contractor and works in demolition, the first thing they do is rip the carpets out of the van so it doesn't get ridiculously dirty.
Yep.
But what there is no body. There is no murder weapon. It appears to be a blunt force trauma spatter because there's blood spatter marks on some of the walls.
Little flecks of blood. Mostly flecks of, what looks like blood, but maybe is enchilada sauce or salsa. We're not sure.
Exactly. It's so there's no body, no murder weapon. The defendant's DNA is anywhere related to the crime scene.
Okay, so Megan, you asked specifically about blood in the van, right?
Yeah.
So the claim is they found the victim's blood in the defendant's van. Okay, so they looked in the van, and you also said something about it smelling of bleach. Okay, so when you look in the van, so the van is completely filthy. The carpet has been removed from like the third of the portion of the back part of the van. And they found one tiny little fleck of material that looked like blood that was too small to test for both DNA and blood. They tested it, and they could not rule out that it was the victim's blood.
Okay, now Chandler, you still have to go back a little bit. He's charged with 3 crimes. Well, 4 crimes technically. 1, murder. 2, hiding a corpse, and stalking the alleged victim and stalking the alleged victim's ex-girlfriend, who is his girlfriend. Well, the alleged victim's girlfriend, which is his ex-girlfriend. So there's 2 stalking, 1 murder, 1 hiding a corpse. What happened is there's back and forth. He was jealous. He has 3 kids with the ex-girlfriend. He is applying for custody of the children. The girlfriend doesn't want that to happen. So
his lawyer probably told him to do all of this. Probably,
her and the boyfriend,
like get the recordings of them talking so they can use it in custody court against him.
Well, that's what the ex-girlfriend's boyfriend was saying. You make sure you manufacture a paper trail. And if that doesn't work, we can enact Plan B. And then they sent texts back and forth like, "What if we just break his legs? I'll do it if only if you say it. But if you want that, that's what we'll do." There was some stuff like that. But like I said, there was none of the defendant's DNA at the crime scene. But what they have said was the defendant was jealous and broke into the ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend, who is the deceased, broke into the alleged deceased. There is no body. Broke into the alleged deceased car.
Evidence of a break-in?
Yeah, well, they said that they broke into his car and took his registration and something else. I can't remember because I'm liquored up out of his car. And so in retribution, the ex-girlfriend said, "Well, he knows your address, so you may as well know his address." So the ex-girlfriend sends the defendant's address to her current boyfriend, and he goes into the defendant's car and does some stuff.
Jeez.
So That's why that's what they're saying there. Like, he was in the defendant's car, so that would explain this DNA. And what this DNA is in this entire gigantic work van, where the prosecution wants you to believe that this okay, and the defendant is probably 6'1" ish, maybe 220, 230. The deceased guy was 270 pounds, and
It's a
the
big dude.
the
Jeff, share
prosecution
the screen.
has said that the defendant has a bad back and has disc problems.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So there's all of that. But they found one, and everybody in the prosecution's witness said it is a pinprick sized spot that was so small they couldn't do a presumptive blood test.
That
to see
shouldn't be
whether or not it was blood.
admitted. That shouldn't be admitted if you can't say what it is. You can't tell a
Well,
jury, we think this is the defendant's blood, even though I can't prove. I mean, the victim's blood, even though I can't prove it. That's insane.
Oh, that's exactly what they did, though. They specifically said they got one CSI tech on the stand that said, I can say with a certain degree of scientific certainty that it is the victim's.
Yeah, it's in my
blood.
opinion, it is it is blood. And
what
so what they
proof
did is
there of
this
that?
was so small. They had a choice: test it for blood or test it for DNA. That's how small it was. And so they decided to test it for DNA. And the best they could do was say it was a single source. Only one person contributed to this DNA, and it was a male.
But it could be the defendant's then.
Yeah. Well, they said they could not exclude the defendant as the source of the DNA.
That's crazy. That shouldn't be allowed. How is that
And
allowed
yes-
as evidence?
Yeah.
Yesterday, they actually went through and said that they even actually couldn't put together a full DNA profile of the deceased because they couldn't find a chain of custody DNA strand, whatever. And
Yeah.
because his father's missing, they could only build like a 50% profile to test against.
This is literally the only speck of DNA they have of the defendant anywhere remotely. I mean, of the alleged victim anywhere remotely near him. And they can't even say this is the deceased or missing guy's DNA. This is a random spot in the back of a work van that they said is a single source DNA from a male who the person that collected it believes to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty that it is the defendant's, the victim's DNA. That is it. This literally one tiny pinprick spot. That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it.
I've never seen
And I
that
believe
photo
it-
before. That is a lot smaller than I realized it was.
And that's
This is
that's a blow-up picture as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at the size
that's
of the
amazing,
bolt
isn't it?
here on the right side of the screen. That is a bolt. That is a tiny, tiny bolt. And that is it's smaller than the point of the magic marker that made this arrow.
Yep.
That is how small it is. And Law and Lumber, Rob says the stalking charge is BS with a text from the parties. Stalking requires an element of perceived threat of harm. Well, in essence, she specifically said, I'm not afraid of him. I am pissed that he broke into the car and took something that didn't belong to him. She said that in her texts.
She said, I'm
so-
not worried. I'm
Yeah.
not worried.
Yeah, I'm not worried.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Junior was more protective of Sadie than fearful for himself, I believe. Because he has apparently a lot of friends with shady pasts. So why would he be scared of some random dude?
Lots of shady friends.
I mean, he asked her permission, essentially. He said, we could, rough him up a bit, break one of his legs.
Break his legs, yeah.
Just give me the go-ahead. Just tell me that it's okay. Or, unless you say no, basically. I will make that happen. I know people. And then she goes,
Yeah.
Poppy no snitch. Which, I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to be.
Yeah, I don't know what that means either. Yeah.